When Fox News correspondent Peter Doocy appeared on air with an uncharacteristic somber tone, viewers immediately sensed something was wrong. Known for his sharp wit, steady composure, and light-hearted exchanges, even with the president, Doocy's demeanor had suddenly shifted. For years, he had been the face of balanced journalism at the White House, navigating heated debates and political storms with professionalism. But now, his on-screen energy seemed weighed down by something far more personal. Rumors began swirling across social media after Doocy's noticeable absence from several broadcasts. Loyal viewers who admired his calm resilience started speculating. Was he stepping away from journalism? Was something happening behind the scenes? The heartbreaking truth soon came to light. His wife, Hillary Vaughn, a respected Fox business correspondent herself, had been quietly battling a devastating health crisis. Sources close to the couple revealed that Peter had made the difficult decision to step back from his demanding career to care for Hillary and their young daughter, Bridget. It was a decision rooted in love, sacrifice, and humanity, values that rarely make the news but define the very best of us. For Peter, this wasn't about headlines or ratings. It was about being there for the woman who stood beside him through every career milestone. As viewers learned more about Hillary's diagnosis, the outpouring of support was overwhelming. Fans, colleagues, and even rivals expressed compassion, praying for her recovery and applauding Peter's strength during such an unbearable time. But as the beloved journalist says goodbye, one haunting question remains. What really happened? And how did this tragedy change the man we thought we knew so well? Long before tragedy entered the picture, Peter Doocy and Hillary Vaughn were one of Fox News' most admired power couples. Their love story wasn't built in the glare of television lights, but in the quiet corridors of journalism, two passionate reporters chasing truth, sometimes competing, sometimes collaborating, yet always respecting each other's drive. Peter, the son of veteran news anchor Steve Doocy, had grown up watching his father master the craft of journalism. He inherited that same curiosity, charm, and instinct to ask the questions others avoided. Hillary, on the other hand, carved her own path through sheer determination, earning a reputation as a fearless and articulate voice on Fox Business. Their paths first crossed at a political event years ago, where their professional worlds overlapped. As colleagues, they shared mutual respect, but it was their shared values, dedication, integrity, and humility that eventually drew them closer. While their on-screen personas were calm and confident, off-camera they found comfort in each other's understanding of the demanding news cycle. Both knew the exhaustion of long hours, breaking stories, and the public's unrelenting scrutiny. That connection deepened into love, built not on glamour but on mutual endurance. When the two finally tied the knot in a private ceremony in 2021, their colleagues at Fox celebrated it as a rare love story in the fast-paced media world. Even amid the chaos of Washington politics, Peter and Hillary managed to create a sense of normalcy, sharing home-cooked meals, enjoying quiet weekends, and later celebrating the birth of their daughter, Bridget Blake Doocy, in early 2023. Peter announced her arrival live on Fox and Friends, beaming with pride. It was one of the rare moments when the often serious reporter revealed the warmth behind his professional exterior. Behind the scenes, though, their lives were already shifting. Hillary, who had always been strong and independent, began facing unexplained fatigue and persistent health challenges. At first, they brushed it off as work-related stress. After all, both were juggling demanding schedules while learning to balance new parenthood. But as months passed, Hillary's condition worsened. There were nights when Peter would return from long White House briefings to find her too weak to even stand, her once vibrant energy fading. Doctors' visits turned into endless tests, each one more uncertain than the last. The couple tried to keep things private, unwilling to invite speculation or pity. For Peter, who thrived on uncovering truth for millions, This was one story he wished he could keep hidden. Yet, beneath his calm television persona, friends noticed the toll. His signature quick smile appeared less often. His answers in press briefings grew shorter, more guarded. It was as if his professional strength was now being tested in the most personal way imaginable. When the truth finally emerged, Hillary had been diagnosed with a serious illness. Peter's world stopped. The man who had spent years questioning presidents and pressing politicians suddenly faced a challenge with no clear answers. Overnight, his priorities shifted. Gone were the long reporting trips and late-night deadlines. Instead, his focus turned entirely to his wife and daughter. The couple's friends described this period as one of quiet resilience. They leaned on faith, family, and the rare moments of joy that still surfaced between the pain. Despite her condition, Hillary encouraged Peter to stay strong and to cherish every moment. Those close to them say that her courage inspired not just her husband, but everyone who came to know their story. And yet, as the months rolled on, it became clear that Peter would eventually have to make a decision, one that would shock both the newsroom and his loyal audience. Because while he had built his career asking the hard questions, this time, life was asking him one of its own. Would he choose his career or his family? When news quietly broke that Peter Doocy was preparing to step away from his position at Fox News, fans were stunned. For years, Peter had been a staple of White House press briefings, known for his sharp yet respectful questioning and his steady presence amid the chaos of Washington politics. Viewers admired his calm demeanor, and his exchanges with presidents, particularly Joe Biden, often made headlines. To many, Peter embodied the next generation of serious journalism, firm, fair, and unafraid. So the thought of him leaving the spotlight seemed unimaginable. But for Peter, the decision had been building for months, hidden behind closed doors and quiet moments of heartbreak. At first, he tried to maintain balance. He continued to appear on camera, reporting live from the White House lawn while Hillary underwent treatment. He would finish a segment, flash his professional smile, and then rush home to be by her side. But the stress was unrelenting. Colleagues began to notice his exhaustion, dark circles beneath his eyes, moments when his voice trembled slightly on air, and his once unshakable focus occasionally breaking as he received updates from home. Hillary's condition demanded constant care, and with their young daughter Bridget still in her first years, Peter found himself torn between two worlds. The demands of journalism, travel, long hours, unpredictable schedules, were no longer compatible with the fragile emotional landscape of his home life. Every story he covered, every question he asked, seemed less important than the quiet moments at Hillary's bedside, holding her hand through another treatment, or watching Bridget's laughter fill the house with fleeting warmth. Friends close to the couple say Peter wrestled with guilt. For years, his work had defined him. It was what connected him to his father's legacy and earned him the respect of millions. But now it felt meaningless compared to what truly mattered. Those who worked with him recall a particularly emotional conversation where he confided, "When you've spent your career chasing other people's stories, you forget how fragile your own can be." That line, spoken softly, encapsulated everything he was feeling: loss, love, and the realization that no achievement could replace time with the people you love. By mid-2025, the rumors had begun swirling around Fox News headquarters. Producers noticed Peter requesting fewer assignments. He was often seen leaving early or taking unannounced days off. When asked, he simply said he needed time with family. Though management offered flexibility and support, it was clear to everyone that something deeper was unfolding. Then, quietly and without fanfare, Peter submitted his resignation. It wasn't a grand announcement or a farewell broadcast. It was a handwritten letter left on his producer's desk, thanking his colleagues for the years of friendship and professionalism. When the news finally broke, viewers were heartbroken but understanding. social media flooded with messages of support and prayers for Peter and his family. Even colleagues who often sparred with him politically expressed deep admiration for his decision. One anchor put it perfectly. Peter Doocy taught us that being strong isn't about standing in front of a camera. It's about standing beside the people you love when they need you most. Behind the scenes, Peter and Hillary were embracing a new rhythm. They moved away from the fast-paced DC environment to a quieter home outside the city, where Hillary could focus on her recovery. Peter began dedicating his time to his family's well-being, finding solace in simple things, reading bedtime stories to Bridget, cooking for Hillary, and spending evenings reflecting on the fragility of life. Despite the pain, there was peace in his choice. He had traded breaking news for something far more meaningful, being present for every small, precious moment that life offered. And while the world missed his voice on television, Peter found his own voice again, not through a microphone, but through love, faith, and gratitude for the woman who had taught him what true strength really meant. Away from the relentless flashes of cameras and the echo of press briefings, Doocy found himself living a very different life, one defined not by politics or headlines, but by love, hope, and the silent battles that few ever saw. The home he once shared with Hillary Vaughn had transformed into a space of both healing and heartbreak. The laughter of their daughter, Bridget, still filled the air, but beneath it lingered a quiet tension, a fragile calm that came only between doctor visits and sleepless nights. Hillary's diagnosis had shaken their world, but the couple approached it with a shared strength that deeply inspired those closest to them. Peter, once known for his steady voice in the White House press room, now became the steady hand guiding his wife through her most vulnerable moments. Every morning began not with breaking news, but with medication schedules, doctor consultations, and moments of silent prayer. Sources close to the family describe Hillary's spirit as nothing short of remarkable. Even on her hardest days, she smiled for Peter and laughed with Bridget. Her determination became her anchor. She refused to be seen as fragile. Instead, she faced her illness with the same composure and grace that had made her a respected journalist. Her colleagues at Fox Business recalled how, even when she could no longer appear on camera, she continued mentoring young reporters and occasionally contributing from home, her mind sharp and her heart unshaken. Peter, on the other hand, had become both husband and caretaker. The shift was emotional and exhausting. He admitted to friends that there were nights when he broke down in silence, unable to comprehend how life had changed so quickly. But he never allowed that pain to reach Hillary. Around her, he remained calm, encouraging, and endlessly supportive. "She's my story now," he reportedly told a friend. 5 simple words that spoke volumes about his devotion. Faith played a central role in their endurance. Raised in a Catholic family, Peter turned to prayer as a source of comfort. His father, Steve Doocy, and mother, Kathy, became pillars of strength, visiting often to help with childcare and lend emotional support. The Doocy family's bond grew tighter than ever. Together they held on to hope that Hillary's treatment would bring recovery, that miracles, no matter how improbable, still happened. During this time, Peter began journaling, a habit he'd picked up as a young reporter but had long abandoned. Only now his entries weren't about politics or interviews. They were about gratitude, fear, and reflection. In those private pages, he wrote about watching Bridget take her first steps, about Hillary's courage on her worst days, and about his newfound understanding of what truly matters. "We spend our lives chasing moments that vanish," he wrote in one entry, "but the ones that stay are always built on love." Friends who visited during this period described the couple's home as peaceful, despite the storm. Hillary's positivity seemed to set the tone for everyone around her. Even as her body weakened, her laughter remained contagious. She would tease Peter about his cooking or remind him to rest, her voice soft but full of warmth. Their love story, though tested by tragedy, had evolved into something deeper than either had ever imagined. But as the months went on, Hillary's health continued to decline. The treatments were no longer as effective, and the side effects grew harsher. Peter, ever the optimist, clung to hope. even as doctors began to prepare the family for difficult realities. Through it all, he refused to let despair win. Each morning he held Hillary's hand, kissed her forehead, and whispered the same promise. "We'll get through this, together." Those words became their daily ritual, their way of fighting back against the darkness. And even as time slipped away, what they found in those moments was something extraordinary, a love so unwavering that it defied fear itself. But fate, as it often does, had one more test in store. And when that moment arrived, it would not only change Peter Doocy's life forever, it would remind the world what true devotion looks like when everything else falls apart. The day that Peter Doocy had feared most finally came, quietly, without cameras, without breaking news, and without the world watching. It happened in the stillness of early morning, when the light had barely begun to touch the curtains. Hillary Vaughn, the woman who had been his wife, his partner, his anchor, and his greatest love, took her final breath with Peter holding her hand. For a moment, time itself seemed to stop. There were no words, no questions, only the sound of silence and a deep, aching grief that filled the room. Those close to the family say Peter stayed by her side long after, unable to let go. He whispered to her, thanking her for everything, for her love, her courage, and for the daughter they had brought into the world together. He promised that Bridget would grow up knowing her mother's strength and kindness, that her name would be spoken in stories not of loss, but of love. When news of Hillary's passing finally reached the public, the response was overwhelming. Messages of condolence poured in from across the country, from viewers, colleagues, politicians, and even competitors in the media industry. Fox News aired a special tribute in her honor, celebrating her career and spirit. For many, Hillary had not only been a talented journalist, but a symbol of perseverance. She had faced her illness with grace and dignity, refusing to let it define her. Peter, however, withdrew completely from public life. For months, he avoided cameras and social media, finding solace in the quiet routine of caring for his daughter. Those who saw him said he seemed changed. Older, yes, but also deeper, as though grief had carved new meaning into his life. He no longer spoke of deadlines or breaking stories. Instead, he talked about moments, reading to Bridget, cooking her mother's favorite meals, showing her photos of happier times. Friends recall one particularly emotional interview he eventually agreed to, not for publicity, but to honor Hillary's memory. With a trembling voice, Peter said, "People know me for asking questions, but Hillary taught me how to listen, how to really hear life. She showed me what love means when everything else fades." The words resonated deeply, not just because of who he was, but because they came from a man who had experienced both the heights of love and the depths of loss. Over time, Peter began finding ways to keep Hillary's legacy alive. He quietly established a foundation in her name, dedicated to supporting women journalists battling health challenges. The foundation's mission was simple yet powerful: to ensure that no reporter, no mother, no woman would have to fight her battles alone. It was Hillary's spirit, continued through action, a reflection of the strength she carried even in her weakest moments. As for Peter, though he had stepped away from the newsroom, the reporter in him never completely disappeared. Instead of chasing political stories, he began documenting personal ones, stories of resilience, of families overcoming grief, of love that endures after loss. He never sought fame for these efforts, yet the quiet power of his storytelling reached millions. His words, once used to question others, now served to heal hearts, including his own. Those who knew Hillary say she would have been proud. Proud of the man who chose love over ambition, who turned tragedy into purpose, and who continued to honor her through every small act of kindness. In a recent statement marking the anniversary of her passing, Peter wrote, "We always said goodbye like it was temporary. I still do." The message, brief yet profoundly emotional, captured the essence of their story, one not defined by sorrow, but by an unbreakable bond that even death could not erase. And so, As Peter Doocy moves forward, he carries with him not just the memories of a love lost, but the lessons it left behind, that the truest stories aren't told on television. They're lived in the quiet spaces between heartbreak and hope. Hillary's light may have dimmed from this world, but for Peter and their daughter it continues to shine, softly, endlessly, and beautifully, through every tomorrow that follows.